Howdy. In this series of videos, we're going to go over everything about Terraform. So what is Terraform? Terraform basically allows you to write code to create all your infrastructure in the cloud. So normally you would, if you need to create like say a server setup for create a virtual machine, or on AWS you create an EC2 instance, you would come into the interface here, and you would create the instance, through the portal and all of that, which works just fine. But getting for more advanced, that's not really the way you'd probably want to do it. So there's a thing called infrastructure as code, which is what Terraform does. So basically, instead of going through the portal and manually clicking through and creating your infrastructure, you can actually just write your infrastructure as code, which solves a lot of problems and helps things out drastically. So some things like it can help out is it's easy to create repeatable environments. So let's say you have a dev environment and a prod environment, or dev and production environment, or a staging, or different things like that. Well, having to go and create all of that through the portal every time can lead to a lot of mistakes. To get that exact setup for dev and production would be very difficult. But if you're able to do it by writing code, it makes things much more simpler, and you can get repeatable results that are known every time. And it takes out a lot of the human error as well. So just to look at like some basic code for Terraform, this is some very basic code for AWS. If you wanted to create, you would create. You have a provider of AWS, and then you can create an instance. So this is a very, very basic example of what Terraform does, but it's just kind of an example. And Terraform is able to run on a lot of different setups. So you can run it on Azure or AWS or Google Cloud Provider, and a lot of different other services. I think there's like 200 plus services. And Terraform provides its own language, basically. So the code here that we're looking at is called Terraform Language. It's really simple. There's not much to it, and if you're not a programmer, or you're a sysadmin, or just a sysadmin coming over and never written code, it's pretty simple to pick up, and we'll go over all of that throughout this course. Some of the cloud providers like Azure and AWS have their own native way of doing infrastructure as code as well, which for AWS it's called CloudFormation, and Azure it's called Azure Resource Manager. And both of those work great, and they're very good, and they do what they need to do. A reason that you would maybe use Terraform instead of one of the native cloud ways of doing the infrastructure as code is maybe you have your setup that you need to do. Maybe you have a production website, and your setup goes, you have servers on Azure and AWS. Well, in that case, you would need to, because a lot of times like websites will, to prevent downtime, they'll host a website on Azure and AWS. So if you were to do both, you would have to write your infrastructure as code in CloudFormation for AWS and ARM, Azure Resource Manager, ARM, for Azure. So now you have to maintain two different code bases to create that one setup. With Terraform, you can go and you can do both of your infrastructure as code through one little code base. So if we go back to our code here, we can specify AWS here, and we can specify Azure, and we can do it all in the same file if we wanted to. So we can create both instances, both cloud setups through one main code base. So you don't have to worry about your developers or sysadmins or anything like that having to learn CloudFormation and Azure Resource Manager. They can just learn one of Terraform, and they can get basically everything done that way, and a little bit less learning curve for hiring new people and different things like that. And also another reason is maybe you're not hosting in two different. You don't have one website that's going on AWS and Azure, but maybe you're a company that needs to do you use Azure, AWS, and GCP depending on what your clients want. So you use all three. If you have to maintain all three of like CloudFormation and Azure Resource Manager, that just gets to become difficult. Whereas you can just put everything in Terraform and do everything that way. So just one code base to manage multiple cloud providers, which is really nice. So that's the basics of Terraform. In this whole series, we're going to go over everything about Terraform, from beginning to end, on spinning up, all kinds of different instances, security groups, virtual network subnets, and all of that. So stay tuned. Make sure you click the subscribe button below to not miss out on any videos, and I will see you in the next video.